Once upon a time, I was a teenage girl. I wasn't exactly gender confused, what they would call gender dysphoric. I didn't really want to be a boy. I didn't really want to be a girl. What I really wanted to be was a newsie. Now, some of you may not remember the 1992 Disney musical. I was 12 years old the year it came out, so I remember it very well. I was what you might call the movie's target demographic. It's based upon the true story of a group of turn-of-the-century newsboys who go on strike to protest Joseph Pulitzer raising the cost of their papers, or papes. In the movie, this strike is dramatized through rousing song and dance numbers. Now, the movie stars one Christian Bale, age 17 and fresh-faced, as well as apparently every non-threatening boy loitering around a Disney lot in 1992. I saw this movie with my best friend, and we were immediately obsessed. See, the hardest thing for me as a teenager was the sudden intrusion of all these gender segregations. I mean, those gender roles exist when you're a little kid, but they're a little more permeable. No one really raises an eyebrow if G.I. Joe goes joyriding in the Barbie car. Parents don't really freak out if My Little Pony and Transformers are saving the world together. But crossing that line becomes a lot harder when you have breasts and start to bleed. Crossing that line becomes a lot harder when you go to junior high and high school and you're surrounded by adults who are overworked and underpaid and are trained to see every idiosyncrasy in a kid as some kind of warning sign. Crossing that line is harder when you are surrounded by peers who are enacting some parody of femininity or masculinity, the boys all getting aggressive and crude, the girls getting catty and judgmental. But into this space came the newsies, these creatures that didn't so much cross the line as exist outside of that divide. I mean, they're boys, right? They get into fights, they spit on their hand before shaking, they swear, they smoke. They protect girls, but they also dance like angels. I mean, look at them. There is not a whisker between them. They all have that live David Bowie androgyny that I find so appealing ever since he ruined me at age 6 in Labyrinth. So anyway, my best friend and I watched this movie and set about writing reams upon reams of fan fiction. Now, this was in 92, 93, 94, before the internet had quite institutionalized fandom, so we were years ahead of our time. In this fan fiction, in general, two girl newsies, who looked suspiciously like my friend and myself, would bind their chests, stuff their hair up under their caps, and passing as boys, they'd go out to New York City to sell papes. They'd fight with the boys, they'd roughhouse with the boys, they'd joke with the boys, they'd go on adventures with the boys. And inevitably, some cute boy newsie would find out their secret. Breasts would come unbound, hats would come off, hair would come tumbling down, and you could probably guess where it went from there. I loved having an imaginary boyfriend. It was so much easier than dealing with real boys. I mean, I was never afraid of sex. I wasn't a prude. What I was afraid of was trying to connect with someone across this huge gulf that I had been convinced existed between men and women. The idea of empathizing with someone who was so unlike myself, who existed in a dichotomy to myself, it seemed impossible. But imaginary boyfriends, no such problems. I spoke for him, and I spoke for her. I wrote for him, I wrote for her. I enacted both parts. I got to be the subject and the object of desire all at the same time. It was better than some sort of like princess and prince fantasy, because we were both newsies, we were both the same creature. Well, there are downsides to the imaginary boyfriend plan, one of which is that it's cripplingly lonely, incredibly isolating. You spend all your time longing for someone, for something that you will never have. So, as I got older, I got braver. I started opening myself outwards to other people. I started to realize that that gulf wasn't as insurmountable as I had been led to believe. You know, in general, there are some downsides to real people. They can hurt you, they can leave, they can die. But on the plus side, I'm no longer making out with my pillow. On the plus side, I have someone in my life who can surprise me, someone in my life who can take me outside of myself. Still, in spite of that, in spite of all the loneliness and isolation, there were some good things that I took away from the Newsies years, the imaginary boyfriend years. I learned to believe in people, in beings that existed somehow beyond these gender roles, beyond male and female. Call them angels, call them fairies, call them transies, call them newsies. Call them boys and girls who think of themselves as more than boys and girls. Call them boys and girls who think of each other as more than boys and girls. I still believe in that. Open the gates and seize the day. Don't be afraid and don't delay. Nothing can break us, no one can make us give our rights away. Arise and seize the day. Now is the time to seize the day.
Now is the time to seize the day.
Send out the call and join the fray.
Send out the call and join the fray. Wrongs will be righted if we're united. Let us seize the day.
Friends of the friendless, seize the day.
Friends of the friendless, seize the day.
Raise up the torch and light the way.
Raise the torch and light the way. Proud and defiant, we'll slay the giant. Let us seize the day. Neighbor to neighbor, father to son, one for all and all for one. Open the gates and seize the day. Open the gates and seize the day. Don't be afraid and don't delay. Don't be afraid and don't delay. Nothing can break us, no one can make us give our rights away. Neighbor to neighbor, father to son, one for all and all for one.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who helped me with this. Jennifer Gandenley, Patrick Ryan Frank, Kyle John Schmidt, Donald Harrison, Matt Donaldson and Christopher Gandenley working on AV stuff, and then Rhea doing my slideshow for me. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, but
that was awesome.
Christian Bale. Thank you, Christian Bale, and David Moscow, more importantly.